to the NFL contest show here on Dead Money Sports. It's the Week 10 Circa Millions Picks Release Show and the contest selections. We got us a game going here with this Navy Notre Dame game. Now, unfortunately, I don't know if we're going to stick around for the contest, the college football watch party. We don't have any parlays for this week because the games that were available in this window just weren't very appealing, and I just wasn't going to put together, a parlay just because I want to at least have an opportunity to win. And I really didn't like all the good games were earlier today or are on ESPN, which I have YouTube TV right now, so I don't have those channels, so I only have certain games available to me. But we got the Notre Dame Navy game, and that's a pretty. I mean, it's Notre Dame's probably going to pull away. Notre Dame's probably going to pull away in the second half because they're already stretching the lead. Navy's just hanging on by a thread right now, but it's the most competitive game. I mean, our Air Force in San Jose State's been pretty competitive too. It's coming down to the wire. But it's Week 10 in the Circa Million contest, and it's the start of the third quarter. This is a 4-week quarter, so we really need to start this one off right. We had a losing week in Week 9. We went 2-3, 14-11 in the second quarter, and 25-20 on the season. So we're right there, but we're about 5 points off the pace of where we need to be in the money at the end of the year. So really need a couple of really strong weeks to get us right back in this contest where we're just outside of the paying positions right now. We're about 3 points behind the paying position. So we really, because 3-2, if you go 3-2 in this contest, you don't really gain any ground. You don't lose any ground. You usually kind of stay right in the mid, right where you were. So we need to go 4-1 or 5-0 in order to hopefully get ourselves in a paying position going into the final few weeks of this contest. So we've got the lines for this week and waiting on VSiN and Circa to release the top 5 selections. And we've got some interesting lines, some lines that have been on the move since these were released. I mean, we've seen now the Texans and Jaguars, they've had to announced a bunch of their players being out for this week's game. Same thing with the Colts. They had a couple of their guys announced out. With trade deadline, so the Browns and the Jets game flip-flopped from earlier in the week. And then we've got some other games like the Niners where they announced some of their guys are going to be out that they thought might be back, like Pearsall and Purdy. But hopefully we get some entertaining games for this week. I mean, the Thursday night game was boring because it was low scoring. There weren't a lot of points, and obviously people like to see points. But the fact that it was such a tight game all the way down to the end, and you knew the Raiders were going to blow it because that's just what they had to do. But the fact that it was that close of a game all the way down to the end is at least an entertaining game in that respect. Because, unless you're on a certain side or, unless you're on the, like the over, you never want to see like a blowout. If you don't have a rooting interest in the game, you at least want to have an entertaining game. Like this one, you got Bills and Dolphins. Nobody wants to even touch the Dolphins this week. Commanders at home against the Lions. Nobody wants anything to do with the Commanders after Jaden Daniels got knocked out of that game. Ravens and Vikings. Ravens are overwhelmingly the public side right now. I can pull this up while we wait for the numbers. But it looks like Baltimore is getting 66% of the bets and 85% of the money. So that's what I mean. You've got some really lopsided games. Philadelphia is getting 78% of the bets and only 55% of the money. Yet we've seen this line move now all the way down to Packers -1. So I mean, they're trying to get some more money on the Packers side, but I mean, it says that the Eagles are only getting 55% of the money. So it's the money wise, it's fairly even. But they announced a few of their guys out, and obviously losing Tucker Kraft takes a big hit to their offense. Eagles added some pieces in the trade deadline to try to shore up some of their weak spots on their defense, particularly in the secondary, and added some depth to their front four. But all right, we have got the top 5 selections, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that up real quick. And here we go. And no surprise, the Detroit Lions, -7.5, are the overwhelming number 1 pick with 2,158 selections. I mean, over 2,000 selections at any point in the contest is quite a lot. I mean, there's 5,600, a little over 5,600 people in this contest. So for that many to be on one side, and this number's moved. It was -8.5. It's moved to -7.5. I mean, it was 9.5. It moved all the way down to 7.5, which you would think if you're trying to attract more action on the Washington side, you wouldn't be moving the number, in Detroit's, towards Detroit. You would be moving it, to give the Commanders more points to try to generate more action. So I guess they're confident. And I think a lot of that has to do with the injuries along the offensive line. This Detroit team has not been running the ball as well as they did earlier in the year. And now Washington, they're getting Marcus Mariota, who by all accounts, statistically is basically even with Jaden Daniels. So, the fall off isn't that much. Now their defense is bad and they've lost even more guys, but, Marshawn Lattimore's out, but, he was actually a kind of a liability because he was not playing well. So let's see what these young guys can do. But I don't know. They don't really rush the passer very well. And the Washington hasn't been running the ball very well either. So I don't know. I mean, this is a tough one. I stayed away from it because the only side you could take with the way the betting and everything was to take Washington. And I just didn't want to get in front of this Detroit team because coming off a loss, Dan Campbell and Jared Goff have been really good against the spread here. I know outdoors in the elements, Goff has struggled, but I just did not want anything to do with this. But it's the number 1 pick, the Detroit Lions, -7.5. Now the number 2 pick is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, -2.5. And this is, fading the New England Patriots, who've been on a hot streak. The Bucs are coming off the bye. They get, so they got some rest. They're getting some guys back, some guys along the offensive line. Their offensive line is really good when they've got their core group. And the defense is getting healthy, and their defense is always good. Todd Bowles is good against these young quarterbacks. He's been good passing against the blitz, but he also takes a lot of sacks, and we could see that come into play. The run game for the Patriots hasn't been very good. And I saw a stat that a team on a 6+ game winning streak on the road as an underdog are 27-41-1 against the spread. So, trend-wise, the Tampa Bay is, a good side here, so not surprised to see them in the top 5. Number 3 is the Philadelphia Eagles. This is that line that's been moving. You're getting value by taking the number with the Eagles, but at the same time, the Eagles are getting a lot of the tickets, but they're about 55-45 money-wise. But there's some injuries on this Green Bay team that are concerning, and I see that as a part of it, and then obviously part of it is that they lost last week to the Carolina Panthers at home, but they were also 1 for 5 in the red zone. So they moved the ball into the red zone against Carolina 5 times and only came away with 1 score. So that final score in that game is a little misleading on the overall way that game was going. It was just, I think I heard it from one of the guys on Wager Talk that, if they played that game, and in the later window that same day, Green Bay probably wins that game. That's just how random, one NFL game can be, where they were 1-5 in the red zone. So, I'll be rooting for Green Bay. I'm not on either side in this one because the number thing freaked me out. I wanted to be on Green Bay. They were in consideration just fading the betting market. But the way this number's moving, it just gives me pause where I was like, you know what? Let's pick something else and we can sit back and watch Monday Night Football and just root for one side. Maybe we'll probably have some bets on that one, but it won't be a contest play. Number 4 is the Baltimore Ravens -3.5 with 1,748. Again, not really surprised because the Ravens looked unstoppable against the Dolphins on Thursday night. Yes, the Minnesota Vikings won that game as big home dogs against Detroit. But again, Detroit has not been the same team they were earlier in the year. They've struggled to run the ball. They were able to fluster Goff with the exotic blitzes, but Flores has a good track record against Lamar Jackson. He has a game plan with his blitz packages, because Flores is going to be blitzing, that can fluster Lamar because he knows how to take away his first read. But Lamar, that was years ago. That was early in Lamar's career when he did that against him. That was when Flores was the head coach of the Dolphins. Lamar's a much better quarterback now, passer-wise, than he was back then. The guy doesn't even throw interceptions. He takes a lot of sacks, but he doesn't throw interceptions. But this line was 4.5, moved to 3.5. And let me just check this real quick because we can look right here. Baltimore is getting 66% of the tickets and 85% of the money. And yet the line moved against the Baltimore side, going from going from -4.5 to -3.5. So why wouldn't you go up and give the Vikings more points if there's so much money on one side? So again, that market movement, the way this line's moving, tells you that the bigger bets are coming in on the Minnesota side. There's just more bets. Well, there's still more money on Baltimore, but it just doesn't make any sense why this line would move in that direction. And then the 5th pick is Seattle -6.5 with 1,369. And again, no surprise here. They looked like one of the best teams in the NFL, beating up on a very depleted Washington team in prime time, taking on the Cardinals. Jacoby Brissett at the helm. He's getting the nod of confidence from the head coach as they've put Kyler Murray. I think he's on IR now. So, and if he does really have that foot Liz Frank issue, then I don't like people saying, "Oh, it's a soft benching," because you know what? If Kyler Murray was healthy, he'd probably still be out there, even though the team's playing well with Jacoby. But that foot injury is hard to heal because you don't get great blood flow down there, so it takes a while. And every time you walk, you're splitting the bone, that top part of your bone. But yeah, so no surprise here. Seattle's added a piece with Rashid Shaheed to help give them more depth at the wide receiver group because Kupp's on the injury report, Thornton's on the injury report, Bobo's on the injury. They're all out. So they needed it, because not only were they thin to begin with, but now with the injuries, they're really thin. They are missing 2 of their starting defensive backs, and I believe their middle linebacker, Jones, might be out as well. Cardinals, though, they're missing their linebacker and both of their starting cornerbacks. So I think we might see some points in this game. This could be a high-scoring game, and that's in prime time. I want to say it's the Sunday night football game. No, this is an afternoon game, the 1 o'clock game. So we'll be able to sit in. There's a couple good games in the second window. Last week there was only one good game in the second window. Now there's a bunch of good games. But so there you go. There's the top 5 of the Circa Million Week 10 selections. And we'll go ahead and let's do this and see if they posted the full. There we go. We got the full list here. And so I've got my 5 picks for this week. And my first pick is the Atlanta Falcons plus 6.5. This is the international game. This is the early game. And yes, I am an Atlanta Falcons fan. We're 3-1 on them this year, and like I've said repeatedly, this is the most times I've ever used this team in the Circa contest, but I really like this number. I think it's way inflated. You know, the Falcons can pressure the quarterback. They've got really good defensive backs. They struggle against the run, but if they can shut down Daniel Jones in the passing game, take away the play action, they've got a real shot at competing. The Colts lost DeForest Buckner, who was a very key part of that defensive front for stopping the run. So Bijan and Algier could certainly have good games. They brought in Sauce Gardner, but this is his first game on a new team. Even if they try to put him one-on-one on Drake London, he's not shutting Drake London down, okay? He might not be the dominant wide receiver that he's been against other teams, but you know, Sauce Gardner doesn't have a bunch. I don't even think he's got one interception this year. That's not his game. So as big as Drake London is, I think he'll be able to. It ain't going to stop him. I'm sorry. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I think the Falcons offense has a real shot, you know, in this game. They could outscore this Colts team. I think we're going to see some points, but I definitely like this. I just think 6.5 is way too much. Yes, the Colts lost last week. They had a bunch of turnovers against the Steelers, but I'm just confident in this Atlanta team that they're going to go out there. This is an international game, so even though technically the Colts are the home team, there's no real advantage like if they were playing at home in that dome. So you can take that away. So I just don't know. I mean, this is a good spot trend-wise for the Colts, but I just think they've inflated this number because of how good the Colts have been all year. So I'm taking the 6.5 with Atlanta. I'll be betting it on the money line as well, but I really think this number is just too much. Even if they lose, I don't think they lose by more than 3. So give me Atlanta plus 6.5 as my first pick. And as you can see, we've got 957 on Atlanta, 957 selections to 1,112. So not too many more, but we are on the contrarian side in that game. Number 2 is the Tampa Bay Bucks, and this was a top 5 selection, and a lot of people are looking to fade the Patriots here. Again, being on that win streak, they haven't played a very difficult schedule up to this point. The Bucks defense is really good. They can't run. The Patriots can't run. The Bucks are getting back their offensive linemen. The receiving group is good. Agabuka is a true number 1, and that means the other guys don't have, they can be the additions like Tez Johnson and Sterling. You got Cade Otton at tight end. He's a great viable receiving option. And Rashid White, Bucky Irvin's not going to play, but Rashid White's been serviceable. So I think they've got a chance here. And Baker Mayfield was playing great, but he was banged up towards the end, and I think they lost their game before the bye because he's been just taking so many shots. So it was a great time for them to get that bye week and be able to rest their bodies and come back fresh. I just like the spot here. Obviously, we're in the top 5, so it's always difficult because the top 5, I believe, has only had one winning week. They were 1-4 last week, and we were on the 1 with San Francisco. So let's hope we get it again because I believe this is the only top 5 pick that we have, and that's the Bucks minus 2.5. Number 3 is the New Orleans Saints plus 5.5. This is a fade on the Panthers after that big win last week. Their offensive line took some injuries. Their defense still isn't good. This quarterback for the Saints, he did not play terribly in his first game on the road. There was some turnovers, but outside of the turnovers, he wasn't that bad. And this isn't a dominant Panthers defense. The Saints defense has actually played, pretty well. They're like middle of the pack statistically. So they're not the worst defense. Their offense has struggled. But you know what? This is the time when young players on the Saints have an opportunity to make a name for themselves and show this new coaching staff that they're going to be part of the future of this team. So I like the opportunities for some of these younger players to play in these games for the Saints. And I think this quarterback might just be able to get it done. And again, this is a fade on the Panthers, coming off that huge win in Lambeau against Green Bay, arguably one of the top 5 teams in the NFL. And they've fallen flat on their face almost every time after a big win, the Panthers have. So they won that big game against Atlanta, and I think they lost the next week. So, this is just a contest play, and also some people that I respect their opinion were very adamant that this was the right side. And, we're on the contrarian side again. You've got 838 for the Saints and 1,112 for the Panthers. So another equally divided game. Not, what is it? Right around 300 more entries on the Panthers than on the Saints. So not an overwhelming one-sided kind of the way the Bucs and the Patriots are. But really, this is a contest play for me. And again, I took some advice from some people whose opinion I really trust, because I was going back and forth about some games, and they said, "Listen, this is the side. This line is way too high." So that's all part of the process this week. Hopefully, we can get the 5-0. But our third pick is the New Orleans Saints plus 5.5. My fourth pick is the Los Angeles Rams minus 4.5. And now they are the more popular side here with 1,211 to 955. So again, not an overwhelmingly favorite for the Rams, but I heard it all. I know the dogs in this matchup between the Rams and the 49ers has won like 14 in a row. They've won a whole shitload of them outright. There's also a trend that says that teams that were a favorite in the first game and lost and are a favorite in the second game are an overwhelmingly, I think they're like 9-1. So this is a good spot for the Rams. This 49ers defense has just been so depleted with injuries. They lost more guys. They're getting some people back. Like I think they're getting Huff back, but they lost more guys. And there's other guys that were on the injury report all week that, who knows if they're going to make it to the end of this game. And now you're going up against arguably one of the most healthy teams in the Rams, and a team that's just playing outstanding. This 49ers team on defense, they have 11 sacks on the year. If you don't get pressure on Matthew Stafford, you give him time to get these receivers the ball, that sets up the play action, and then you're going to have to deal with Kyron Williams and Blake Corum and this offensive line that's been playing together almost all year. They're pretty much the starting 5 that's, started the season. So I know there's a lot of trends that say that you want to take the points with San Francisco. And if they lose this game, or if they win but don't cover the spread, you know what? It is what it is. But I feel like the Rams are a much better team here, and the 49ers have played well above their heads with the amount of injuries that they've suffered. I mean, Pearsall's still out. Brock Purdy's still out. It's going to be Mac Jones. How many more times can you count on Christian McCaffrey to basically carry this team? I know George Kittle's back, and he's been playing well. The offensive line is doing its thing, but I mean, I don't know if they've got it. And I think this is going to be a 7-point win for the Rams, 28-21. So I really like this Los Angeles Rams team in this spot, even though I know all the trends say that you're supposed to take the points with the 49ers. I'm going with the Rams because I think they're the better team. So give me the Rams, and I think they're going to win. If I think they're going to win, I got to think they're going to cover. And I think the books are also playing on that trend that the 49er, or the team in this game that's the dog, has won like 14 in a row or some shit like that, or covered 14 in a row. So that's why they even made it 4.5 instead of 3.5. Because you could have made this line 3.5 for the 49ers, and people would have still taken the 49ers based on the trend of the underdog covering the spread. So I think they actually inflated this Rams number or the 49ers number because they know the Rams are the right side here, and I believe it. So I'm going with the Los Angeles Rams minus 4.5 as my fourth pick. And the fifth and final pick is the Arizona Cardinals plus 6.5, and we're fading one of the top 5 selections. I almost went with the Seahawks because of the injuries to the Cardinals secondary. But then I saw the injuries on the Seahawks side of the ball, and I think this Cardinals offense, they're going to score some points in this game. I think this is going to be a shootout. I would certainly take the over, take some props on touchdowns and overs and or scoring overs in this game. But if I think both sides are going to score, then I think 6.5 is just way too much for this matchup. And we know the Seahawks have not been great against the spread at home under McDonald. So I'm fading, and I was also fading the public because on this game too, the Seattle side is getting 79%, or basically 80% of the tickets, 79% of the tickets, but only 52% of the money. So there was also a fade on that. It's kind of a contest play. I knew the Seahawks would be popular. Some of the people who I respect that I listened to were also saying that Seattle was definitely going to be the public side. So with them getting 6.5, I just think they inflated this number by maybe 2.5 points, maybe 3 points to, and see if people were still willing to take Seahawks. Because if the Seahawks are getting that much of the tickets, but just that much of the money, why wouldn't they move it in the direction of, they wouldn't move the line. They're happy with the line. That's why it's staying where it is. And this is actually double. This is definitely a much more overwhelming one-sided selections to the Cardinals at $835 for the Cardinals and $1,369 on the Seahawks. So, yeah. That's I like being on that side. I like the way this offense for Arizona has been playing with Jacoby Brissett. I know this defense for Seattle's been good, but they are missing 2 of their key pieces. And Reek Woolen, if they take him and they put him in at cornerback to fill in for their cornerback that's going to be out, he's not that good. They were talking about potentially trading him. He was a potential trade option, which means there's a reason why this guy is just a nickelback, and I think he can get exploited by some of these receivers for the Arizona Cardinals. And we saw this Cardinals defense do well against this Seattle passing game earlier in the year. They were missing most of their secondary in that game as well. So, I think we've got a good matchup here. I think it's going to be a tight game. And even if Seattle wins, I don't see them winning by a big margin here. But I believe the Cardinals have a shot. This is going to be a high-scoring game. I really feel that. But so there you have it. That is the top 5. Or that is my 5 selections for Week 10 of the Circa Millions contest. We've got the Arizona Cardinals plus 6.5. The Los Angeles Rams minus 4.5. The New Orleans Saints plus 5.5. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers minus 2.5, which is our only selection in the top 5. And the Atlanta Falcons plus 6.5, taking on the Colts in the international game in Germany. There you have it. That is the conclusion of the NFL contest show for Week 10. Want to thank everybody for joining me. Hopefully you have some luck in your bets this weekend. And join me on Monday night at the conclusion of the Eagles and Packers game for the late night at the lounge, where we'll go over the results for Week 10 and also give out our first thoughts for the Week 11 slate. So again, thank you to everyone and good luck with all your bets. We'll be back for the second half of the Navy Notre Dame game. back for the remainder of the live stream. And we can go over the other contest picks. For the Circa Survivor and the Grandissimo. I believe there's only 11 entries left in the Grandissimo. And so we've got, what, 1,769 entries. We've just reached the second half of the season officially, right? Like 9 weeks is over. We've got 9 more weeks of the regular season. There were 18,600 entries in this contest. And by the time we've gotten to the halfway point, you're down to what, 10% basically? If there's 18,000, and I mean, it's like 9%, 9.5% of the remaining field after 9 weeks. It just shows you how hard this is. Like, I would have been knocked out in week 1. I had the fucking Patriots, you know what I mean? And that's $1,000 an entry for this contest. So, it's frustrating for people who get knocked out early because they want to be in it and they don't want to pay attention to it because they're disappointed that they're not in it, because it's a lot of money, man. $18.6 million is a lot of money, to have a potential to winning a portion or all of. You got to really, be mad at yourself for, for the rest of the season if you made a poor choice early on, and, maybe your other side, oh, we got a touchdown. Touchdown by Notre Dame. Yeah, they're starting to pull away here. But so far, the Panthers are the number 1 pick. So not a lot of people with faith in the New Orleans Saints, man. And this is a team, it's like the Titans when they wiped out all those people. You make automatic assumptions based on last week's results. And this is a week-to-week league, man. You've really, you've got to do your research from 1 week to the next to determine, what is the really best option. I know some people have like spreadsheets and, they have the whole grid mapped out of what teams they want to use where for the season. But, injuries and that kind of stuff really change, how you have to go about it as the season progresses. But the number 1 pick with 490 entries out of the remaining 1,769 is the Carolina Panthers. Nobody on the Broncos, though, so we didn't get any Thursday night winners. Oh, no, here we go. Excuse me. The Broncos right here with a number 2 pick at 429, 24%. So they advanced. They're through to next week as they were able to just barely squeak by the Las Vegas Raiders. Man, to see that many people of the remaining entries in this contest being on the Broncos, and now, remembering how tight that game actually was right down to the end, man, there's some really nervous people out there. It could have been a major, catastrophe for those guys in the entry, for those entries in this contest. Number 3 pick is the Seahawks at 261. So not a lot of people having any faith in the Cardinals, and we're on the Cardinals with the points. Now, obviously, that's a big difference between winning the game and covering a point spread. But normally teams that win cover the spread, and you got 261 people who think that the Seahawks are going to, obviously win this game outright. And equal amount on the Bills taking on the Dolphins. No surprise, Buffalo's 9.5-point favorite against a Miami team, but they are playing in Miami, and weird things happen when you play on the road and you put people out in the heat like that. And turnovers can play a major role in these kind of games. Bills coming off a big win last week, so maybe they come out a little flat, but 261, 14% going against the Miami Dolphins with the Buffalo Bills, and now the Bears 100. There's an equal distribution. I mean, there's only 1,769 entries left, but it's an equal distribution here with the survivor picks as we're getting down to the nitty gritty here, and people are having to start to use teams and strategize for the Thanksgiving and holiday games. But they're going against the New York Giants. They're 4.5-point favorites at home. This is going to be a weather game, it sounds like. I almost used the Giants plus the 4.5, but I was concerned about their injuries in their defense. It's another game that overwhelmingly, where is it? Right here. 72% of the tickets and 84% of the money is on the Bears. So the Giants can pull it out, which they certainly can. Could see 168 entries getting knocked out by the Bears. I like the Giants with the points. Lions, 90 entries on them going up against Washington. And again, that's that 7.5 to 8.5 point spread, depending on where you're betting at. And everybody's expecting a bounce back from the Lions after that loss in a division game on the road against Minnesota. Obviously, Washington does not have the level of star power as the Minnesota Vikings do, so no surprise. But this is also a team that plays on Thanksgiving, so a lot of people are trying to hold on to them as a potential play for the Thanksgiving games. Rams, now it significantly drops. You're going from 90 to 13. 13 people on the Rams. They think they're going to get it done against the 49ers. We got the Rams minus 4.5, so let's hope they win and win convincingly. Colts 13 taking on Atlanta in that international game. And we don't have any, it doesn't look like we've got too many head-to-heads in this one. Ravens with 11, and they're taking on the Vikings, and there's no Vikings picks. 9 for the Chargers, no Steelers. Browns, obviously no Jets backers. You got the Bucks with 8, and I don't see anyone on the Patriots. Did everybody already use New England? Or they get knocked out like me? Texans, and then here's your only real head-to-head. Texans 4 and the Jags 1. Oh, here we go. We got 2 on the Jets with the Browns. So those are the only ones that are going head-to-head with one another. So there's going to be some eliminations with those games. But the rest of these, I mean, it's really this line and the Lions that are the ones that could do, damage to this remaining field here. You've got 1,769. The implied value is $10,000 for your entry. So if you decided to sell it, you could make some money right now. If you had multiple entries and you wanted to guarantee that you didn't, lose, but you're also giving up an opportunity in case you lose one to have a backup. At this point, I don't think I would sell one. And now the Grandissimo. And yeah, we got 11 entries left. This is the $100,000 buy-in, winner takes all. $6.9 million to the winner. Started out with 69 entries. You've got 11 remaining. 4 on Buffalo. 4 on the Broncos. So they're through to the next week. They're safe. 1 on the Panthers, 1 on the Bears, 1 on the Seahawks. And we don't have any remaining entries with 2 entries remaining. All these ones that have a 2 next to them, this is their only remaining entry. But yeah, implied value right now, $627,273 is what the implied value of your entry would be right now. with a $100,000 buy-in. It's winner takes all too. So I've said I think when it gets down to 3 entries that we'll see a chop. Now it would be weird if everybody but the Broncos backers ended up losing. You'd have 4 left. You'd have to see, are you going to fight it out? But I think this is over. I've said it before Thanksgiving. But man, it's got to be nerve-wracking at this point, being this close to that huge payday, and obviously knowing that it's, all or nothing basically with a $100,000 investment. And obviously these ones that have a 2 next to them have at least $200,000 invested. Man, they scored again. Yeah, Notre Dame's starting to pull away in this game. Yeah, it looks like Navy's about to get boat raced on this one now. Here we go. All right, so we got the slides going now. Yeah, it's just not looking good for Navy. I don't know if it's even worth sticking around for this stream much longer. Again, I said we don't have any action on this game, so it is what it is. And the LSU game, what's that score? Yeah, Alabama 17-6 over LSU. So that game wasn't nearly as competitive as we thought it might be. Cal and Louisville's playing a tight game. That looks like a nice game. That's on. Obviously, it's on ESPN. Yeah, if Notre Dame scores here, this next touchdown, it's be 42-10. That's game. Yeah, they're just. I mean, they're just better athletes all the way around. You know, what are you gonna do? So the Circa Picks NFL contest show is available on YouTube. If the if you didn't get to see the earlier portion of the live stream, it's finished uploading now. The link is on X. Be sure to follow me on X at Dead Money Sports for any updates or other bets, obviously, for the games that we may not be using in the Circa contest, but, you know, have a interest in throughout the week. Obviously, the primetime games on Sunday night and Monday night. We don't have any action on those in the contest, so I liked Chargers, but obviously there's not going to be a home field advantage for them because Pittsburgh's fans travel well, and there's a lot of them in Los Angeles. The offensive line for the Chargers did suffer some injuries, but it looked like they filled that gap at least for the time being. Will Pittsburgh's pass rush be able to get after Justin Herbert, who's been taking sacks at an incredible rate this year? He also leads the team in rushing, I believe, or quarterbacks in rushing. So you don't want your franchise QB just taking abuse like that. But it's been part of their winning formula. Steelers are almost have to win the turnover battle in order to have any chance of winning in these games. And they have to do it in like really overwhelming fashion. I mean, the game against the Patriots, they had like 5 or 6 turnovers. Then against the Colts, they had, I think six turnovers. So obviously that's not a sustainable formula to win in the NFL. But yeah, I wanted to take the Chargers, but they're only getting 40% of the tickets and looks like 38% of the money. So, and yet the line in some places has moved from the 2.5 to 3 and even 3.5 at some spots. So, well, through 2.5 and 3, it opened at 3.5. And then obviously Monday night, the big game with Philadelphia and Green Bay. Philadelphia was one of the top 5 selections in the millions for Week 10. We are not on either side, though I did want to take Green Bay purely out of a contest play scenario, fading this overwhelming Philadelphia love, but it might be warranted. I mean, they're not a bad team, obviously, and Green Bay, what are they going to be like without Tucker Kraft? Can their DBs match up against these Philadelphia wide receivers? Can Saquon Barkley, get back to his productive ways of last year after the bye? We will see, but we don't have a side in this one. If we have any bets, we'll obviously post them before the game. But yeah, this is it's going to be a fun one. I'll be rooting for Green Bay since Philadelphia is such a major overwhelming selection this week in the top 5. I mean, there's still a lot of people on Green Bay. It wasn't like it was completely one-sided, but double, more than double. Yeah, so we'll definitely be rooting for Philly. The Chargers were also the more popular side of the two by about 400 selections. Yeah. This game's over. I didn't even see them scoring, but I knew they would. This game's a wrap. All right, everyone. We're going to end the stream here. Obviously, there's not many people watching, so it doesn't really matter. But this game is completely over. Notre Dame has no shot. I thought they might put up some more of a fight, but yeah, you could just see the overwhelming skill of the Fighting Irish. And they're also getting weather out there in South Bend. It looks nasty, which is what we expect for the Bears-Giants game tomorrow, which could play a factor in that one. But all right, everyone. I want to thank you for joining the stream. Again, the NFL Contest Show is available on YouTube if you missed the early portion, and it's also, the link is on X. To everyone out there, have a safe trip. Take care of yourselves, and hopefully you win some money this weekend. Ah, shit.